Hi, this is David Parrish, and welcome to the WME video blog. What does it mean to be a missionary? I mean, is that a special call that somebody has on their lives? We are a mission organization. We have missionaries that are serving literally all over the world, on every continent in the world, with a special focus on greater Latin America. And I know that as I was growing up as a kid that I had a lot of respect for missionaries. I saw them as heroes, I should say, and even to this day, I feel that way. I read biographies of missionaries, and these guys and ladies are my heroes. These are the people, the men and women, that have obeyed Jesus and have made a difference in the world and are doing what He said to do. But the question is, I've heard other people say, well, actually, every Christian is called to be a missionary. And so the question is that true? And I want to say, as an answer to that there's a yes and maybe a no to that. I think that every Christian is called to engage in some level of missions. Every Christian. I believe the Great Commission is for everybody. But on the other hand, of course, there are people that God sends to a specific place, a specific people, and so forth. So there are callings to missions. You know, I'm thinking back to my own call to missions. Why am I leading a mission agency? Why is that what I do with my life right now? And the answer goes back to, I'll never forget being 21 years old, a senior at Lee College in Cleveland, Tennessee in September of 1983. And I'll never forget the day that I went into chapel. My wife and I had just gotten married the month before. I had been going to summer school, so I was finishing a semester early. This was my last semester in Bible college as an undergraduate. I was called to preach. I was called to be a minister. I felt that in my life, but I didn't know anything about missions. And I'll never forget just going into a weekly chapel service and sitting down, and the speaker that day was a missionary. He wasn't the first missionary I had ever heard. This wasn't the first missionary I had ever met. I had heard missions before, but there was just something about that day that as I sat in that chapel service that day and heard what that man was saying, that just gripped me deep down. And I knew it wasn't somehow, at least now as I look back, I know it wasn't just that missionary talking to me. It wasn't just that man trying to give me a vision for missions, but it was God speaking to me. And from that moment on, I knew that part of God's call in my life was to connect with what He was doing globally in world missions. Ultimately, 5 years later, that led to the establishing the beginning of this ministry here, World Missions and Evangelism, in 1988. By the way, this year, in August of 1988, we will be celebrating 30 years of this organization. Now, this organization was established in 1988, but in 1983, 5 years before that, I had an experience where I knew that God was gripping me and saying, this is something you're supposed to be a part of. I'm calling you to that. So my question is that kind of a call, is that kind of a call for everybody, or is that just a specific call to some people? Well, in the next few weeks in this video, I'm going to start looking at that. And I'm going to ask you to be praying for this. I want you to ask the Lord, what are you saying to me about the rest of my life? Somebody might say, well, but David, I'm 75 years old. And so whatever it was God wants me to do, that's pretty much in the past. That's not really true. I hope you'll remember that Moses was 80 years old when God gave him his call. Hope you'll remember that. Now, God made him live to 120. Somebody said, well, I may be 80 years old. I'm surely not going to live to 120. Well, the truth about it is, it doesn't matter how long you live. If you're here another day, if you're here another week, if you're here another year, what God may have something new for you that you've never thought about. So don't ever say, well, I'm too old. On the other hand, some of you may say, I'm just a kid. I'm 15 years old. What can I do? You're never too young. You're never too old. And you see, here's the problem. Everybody has excuses. I'm too young. I'm too old. And in the middle, everybody in the middle is what? Too busy. But I don't care if you're young and you feel like you're too young. Jeremiah said, I'm just a child. And God said he would put his word in his mouth. Or somebody may say, I'm too old. And God called Moses at 80 years of age. Or somebody that's somewhere between 15 and 80, and you say, I'm too busy. I've got a job. I've got a spouse. I've got a family. I've got a career. I've got kids. Here's the thing. Nobody is too young or too old. And listen to me, you're not too busy for God to speak to you and God to use you to advance his kingdom. So today I want you to set every excuse on the side, and I want you to say, I want to pray, God, what is it that I'm not right now moving into, that right now is not a reality in my life as far as obeying you, as far as advancing your kingdom? What is it you are saying to me? Would you pray that prayer, and would you be sincere in that prayer? If so, I want to tell you, God is going to answer you. And I hope to show you some things in the next few weeks in this video blog that will help you start right where you are and hear from God. Hear what he's saying to you and begin to put it into practice so that the rest of your life is making a greater difference. You've made a difference up to now, but the rest of your life makes a greater difference than you ever imagined that it could. Thank you for watching this, and I hope you'll tune in to the video blog in the next few weeks. God bless you.